All right, Immaculate. You are the most well-connected, well-versed, and well-studied expansion partner out there. Give me this. The ACC, the Big 12, is a merger on the horizon.
Well, I think you might have just got me in a little trouble with that first part there. But my best opinion would be that no. We've heard this many times in the past when conferences start talking with each other. They say this is an alliance. This is a scheduling alliance, a merger. We're going to do something together. And it never really fully pans out. Yeah. But probably means that they're talking. And, someone might say, well, someone's just lying about that. I think now would be a good time to start talking. So with whether anyone was coming out and saying that or not, I would think that they were already talking. So I don't think that'll be a full merger. That's, you do the math. The ACC is losing 6 teams to the Big 10 and the ACC. That takes you down to 12. Big 12 is at 16. That's a 28-team league.
Yeah.
And if you add the Pac-2 to that, that's 30. I don't know. I mean, that seems a little bit unwieldy for me.
Give me this. This is a setup question, too. Who has more power right now, the Big 12 or the ACC? Who's in a better spot for negotiation?
Oh, the Big 12.
With that, what would keep Brett Yormark from taking the position of power and instead of merging, poaching? Does that not seem more obvious here?
This is a little backwards saying because the reason why the Big 12 is in a better position is because it has less targets that others want to poach. Does that make much sense to you?
Yeah.
So you're in a more stable place. You've already had your 2 top ones poached. You figured out what to do afterwards. I mean, that's why the ACC grabbed the 3 from out west. They were kind of copying you guys, trying to get ahead of what's coming. And but because the ACC has, the Big 10 and the SEC looking at it, they've got to figure out what they're going to do. I think that they may have some ideas. I've certainly have my own ideas of what they could do. But if you're the Big 12, I think you sit pretty knowing that those 2 big feeders are coming for the ACC. And no matter what they say about the value or having their 15-team clause in the contract, if they lose their top value schools out of that conference, ESPN is not going to sit there with that ballooning contract saying, oh, yeah, we're cool with paying this.
Yeah.
I don't care if you got 15 schools. That's not happening. And if that's your only business partner for the ACC with ESPN, do you really want to piss them off?
Right.
Because they might do the same thing they did to the Pac and in 2036 say, meh, we don't want to sign a deal.
Yep. With this, is the assumption then, no matter what, Florida State is gone? And if it's Florida State, who goes with them?
I think so. To put out as much as they have and to not actually be doing any work behind the scenes on it, I think that's very unlikely. Yeah. So I'm already past the Florida State thing. And I used to think Florida State to the SEC because I just thought that they wouldn't be dumb enough to allow the Big 10 to plant their flag in Tallahassee, as I said.
Yeah.
But then the CFP madness happened, and the SEC went all out on making sure Alabama got in.
Yeah.
And now, sometimes people with a lot of money, they spend it emotionally. It's not always just pure logic that those are spending. And I think what we're seeing is big FSU money is pushing politicians, it's pushing the state, and I think they're gathering to do some kind of sovereign entity protection to where if Florida State leaves the ACC won't be able to sue them for their natural broadcasting rights.
Yeah. The idea.
So you wanted to know who goes with them, by the way.
Right. Yes.
I think Georgia Tech.
Wow. So you don't go to UNC or Virginia or Clemson first?
UNC has an in-state problem. They are the first pick. They're the first pick above Florida State for the Big Ten, in my opinion. When you look at the research values, their how much money they have there in investment value, but they have an in-state problem. And right now they're dealing with their chancellor issues and they're getting pulled in both directions. So I think the easier thing to happen is for Georgia Tech to go with Florida State. North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, and Virginia all go to the SEC, probably with half pay, 2/3 pay, something that makes it a little bit easier on the SEC. Because, if you get them at half pay, you're getting, 4 for the price of 2.
Yeah.
So that gets them both up to 20, and something like that might happen.
In the event of that, who would the Big 12 get?
Well, now everyone else, just kind of like how we saw in the Pac, when it was like, oh, we wouldn't dare go to the Big 12.
Yeah.
At that point in time, the value of the ACC is going to be perceived as much less. They've got 3 schools coming in, but that's 6 schools going out.
Yeah.
And ESPN's looking at it saying, we're not paying the same amount. So I think those schools probably already know in advance that the Big 12 might actually be a better spot for more pay. And if you get some of these schools that I did not list, there's a big one on there. I'm sure you're probably thinking of that. Starts with a C.
Yeah.
If you add those, I don't see the Big 12 staying at 31. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on that. But when you look at the lineup and what it was when they got that, you add the 4 from the Pac, and you add the likes of, say, Clemson, Louisville. Pitt fans aren't going to like it, but Pitt.
Yeah.
And, one more, I think that that pay is going to go up.
And Miami, we haven't mentioned Miami either. I mean, that's another.
Everyone likes that, and everyone talks about that, and it's possible. I tend to think they're a part of something else, but that's just me being a little, one of my little crazier ideas. With
this, and I want to get your ideas of where the Big 12 should go next in general, less so. We've been more specific about these conferences and murmurs. I'll tie it up with this. Is it more imperative the Big 12 focus out west on Oregon State, Washington State, or try to hone in on a Clemson or anybody in the ACC?
I would be pretty full of it if I said that they should look at Oregon State and Washington State ahead of what's going on with the ACC. I don't think, though, anyone from Oregon State or Washington State watching this should take that as a bad thing. Mm-hmm. You're now basically just now on the board. When you were in that lawsuit, you were not on the board. Just, plain and simple. So now they can think about it. Now maybe the ACC is thinking if we grab them, now we have 4 on the West Coast. I tend to think that the elite privates of that conference, that's not really where they want to go, but I could be wrong. But now, they're on the board, so we'll see what goes with them.
Where does the Big 12 go next? That's where I want to go next. Immaculate ACC. With the ideas of this conference, and maybe it's exclusive with the ACC. That is coming up right here on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.